President Bush says politics will play no role in deciding future moves against Iraq. While a UN team is poised in Baghdad for another weapons inspection attempt. This is the CBS Evening News. Tonight from the Houston Astrodome, the site of the 1992 Republican National Convention. Good evening, I'm Connie Chung. On the eve of the Republican convention, there's more bad re-election news for President Bush. The latest CBS News New York Times poll shows Mr. Bush hasn't been gaining much strength and that Bill Clinton hasn't been losing much. But getting most of the attention tonight is today's New York Times report that suggests Mr. Bush aims to provoke a showdown with Iraq as early as tomorrow for political reasons. Mr. Bush had an angry response. Joining us with this story is White House correspondent Susan Spencer on the floor of the Republican convention. Susan?
Connie, as they gear up for what they hope will be a turning point in the Bush campaign, Republicans today were both puzzled and angry at those reports that the president might provoke Iraq tomorrow, partly for political gain. Mr. Bush denounced what he called a clear breach of security in the story and refused to confirm any of it. But in an apparent reference to Governor Clinton's lack of military service, he said he has been in combat and wouldn't send anyone for political reasons.
The campaign and the convention have nothing to do with this. This is the national security interest of the United States. This is obligations to support the United Nations.
But White House sources say that unlike the last time, there is now a plan in place. If Saddam calls the Allies' bluff again, the call will be answered quickly and decisively. In Houston, campaign officials, too, were outraged at any suggestion of political motive.
It's preposterous. It's absolutely preposterous.
And Defense Secretary Cheney denied the U.S. could move unilaterally to inspect, even if it wanted to.
That's a totally fallacious notion. We have no control over when those inspections take place or when installations are taken. Those are all decisions that are made by the United Nations.
But military action, however nobly motivated or coincidental, might in fact help the president's political fortunes. The new CBS News New York Times poll out tonight shows only 40% approve of Mr. Bush's handling of Iraq now. 64% favor a military move to force compliance with the ceasefire. Republicans complain that Mr. Bush can't do anything this year that is not labeled political, but note that U.S. action always has been with the Allies.
Regardless of what you might think or not think about the motivations of the Bush administration, it's inconceivable that there would be a United Nations plot to help re-elect George Bush.
What are you going to do, give Saddam Hussein 85 days to do what he wants to do until after November? The answer is no. We'll do what we need to do.
And what Republicans need to do at this convention is make sure that George Bush's campaign gets back on track. Directing air attacks on Saddam Hussein from the Astrodome may seem improbable, but as the president likes to say, this is a weird year. Connie?
All right, thank you. Susan Spencer. Correspondent David Martin is at the Pentagon tonight. David, what can you tell us about what might happen tomorrow?
Well, Connie, it depends entirely on what the inspectors do. Before they left for Iraq, the U.S. gave them a list of places where the U.S. thought Saddam Hussein was hiding things he's required to destroy. On that list was the Iraqi Defense Ministry. But so far, the team has not gone to the Defense Ministry, so as long as they're still in Iraq, it is still possible that tomorrow or the next day they could demand to go see the Defense Ministry. But if that's the case, the Secretary of Defense doesn't know about it because he said just a couple of hours ago he doesn't know where the inspectors are going to go next. Now, it's true that the Pentagon is upping its military preparedness in the Gulf. They have sent a senior Air Force general and a staff of 30 over there to take direct charge of the planning. But that has more to do with the fact that the U.S. and its allies are getting ready to protect the Shiites in southern Iraq from attacks by the Iraqi Army and Air Force. But obviously, if there is a standoff at a ministry in Baghdad, the U.S. and its allies are going to be ready to launch a strike on short notice. But it depends, again, on what those inspectors do and, more importantly, on what the Iraqi reaction is once the inspectors say they want to go someplace.
Thank you. David Martin at the Pentagon. If a new showdown is only hours or days away, it was hard to tell from actions of the UN arms experts in Baghdad today. A possible U.S. attack is only one of the problems facing Saddam Hussein. Tom Fenton in Baghdad has our report.
The leader of the UN inspection team gave no hint tonight of whether he will attempt to enter a government ministry.
I could not disclose the operational details of my inspection.
Smitovich said his meetings with the Iraqis are not over yet.
We have a lot of questions to discuss with our Iraqi counterparts.
While there are no outward signs here that Saddam Hussein faces a new confrontation with the UN, there are plenty of signs that he is facing severe problems at home. Saddam has given Iraqi farmers just 2 weeks to turn over their grain harvest to the government. Inspectors will check farms to prevent cheating. The emergency decree is an indication that the United Nations sanctions are biting deeply. This farmer complains he can no longer get fertilizer or animal feed. I have no more chickens, he says, and my crops are poor. Farmers are reluctant to sell their crops at government prices because the Iraqi currency is rapidly losing its value.
Saddam Hussein hasn't spelled out the punishment for farmers who fail to carry out his orders, but it can be pretty dire in Iraq. Dozens of merchants have already been executed for so-called profiteering.
Saddam recently announced that the damage to the economy is so severe that there's a danger of serious unrest. It was a startling admission from a dictator who permits no opposition. Saddam personally launched a crusade Thursday against merchants he accuses of inflating prices. He threatens to execute more and to mete out the same summary justice to his ministers if they fail to stop the economy's rapid decline.
Those Iraqis who heard foreign broadcasts today now have another crisis to worry about, and they have no way of knowing whether the bombing threat is real. Connie?
Tom, is a standoff imminent?
One of the few signs we have tonight is that the leader of the UN team says he plans to leave still on Tuesday. That doesn't sound like a standoff is imminent, but you never know.
All right. Thank you, Tom Fenton. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News from Houston, more on the Republican convention and the re-election challenge facing President Bush. And the battle for young voters. Are the Republicans changing their tune?
Yeah, boy, we are! Yeah, we are!
Draw from the facts. There's a way to maintain regularity without drugs.
Reagan before that. Many of those former supporters have very few positive things to say about where the president might lead them were he to win again. Cokie Roberts has been with one such family.
Meet Mohammed and Gilda Bygone. She's a lawyer. He owns rental properties in Houston.
According to our latest CBS News New York Times poll, the Clinton-Gore ticket has not lost its healthy lead since the Democratic convention. Here are the numbers. Bill Clinton, 55%, George Bush, 37%. And as Bruce Morton reports, Republican delegates are not blind to the road ahead.
Convention delegates arrived today to official cheers and whistles, but you couldn't blame some of them for being worried.
We've never been down this much, and it causes concern for all of us, but we're hopeful hard work will do it.
Have voters a favorable opinion of George Bush? No. Have they a favorable opinion of Bill Clinton? Yes. Those numbers haven't changed much in the last month either. Vice President Quayle's unfavorable rating has actually gone up since July. Some more bad news. 9 voters in 10 think there ought to be real change in the country. 63% think Clinton would bring about such change. Only 15% think President Bush would. And voters were evenly divided on whether they had a favorable opinion of the Republican Party itself. Can the president turn it around?
He's promised us that after the convention that everything will come out. So I'm depending on him.
The Astrodome is ready, full of fresh paint and the most balloons ever assembled in one place anywhere. The talking starts tomorrow, and the platform with its tough anti-abortion plank will come up in the morning session.
My party so far is sending the message to women, be quiet and go away.
Abortion rights activists are still trying to get enough support to have a floor debate on the platform's abortion plank. Though Crisp said without last-minute help from the president, that would be tough.
But the ball is now in the President Bush's court. He can permit the Republican Party, the party that freed the slaves, to become the party that would enslave women, or he can exercise leadership to move the party back into the mainstream.
The president is unlikely, though. What convention organizers want is a happy, unified convention whose delegates, inspired by President Bush's Thursday night acceptance speech, come rocketing out of here, determined to turn those poll numbers around. Connie?
Thank you, Bruce. The president's greatest fear is that traditional Republican loyalists who have elected their party's candidate for the past decade will fall off the bandwagon this year. Eric Engberg has more on that.
The Republican convention of 1988 gave the party's nominee a golden moment to define himself for American voters who didn't know him well. He hit a home run.
My friends, I am that man.
It was one of those times when the convention, showcasing the party's plans and zest before a vast national audience, launched the nominee toward victory. But there are minefields in these flag-bedecked, politically charged halls, too. Ask Jimmy Carter, who in 1980 had to endure a podium snub from Edward Kennedy that pointed the way to eventual defeat. Like Carter, the George Bush of 1992 has serious economic woes and a party whose factions are feuding. It has led some Democrats to hope that the mostly blue-collar Reagan Democrats who began their cross-party migration in 1980 might be ready to switch back.
Underneath this convention, there's an awful lot of tension, and it's basically the fatigue and wear and tear of the Republican coalition. It's basically coming apart.
Under that kind of siege, the acceptance speech here confronts George Bush with one of the big tests of a long political career.
This is sort of a last chance, if you will, for the president to say, look at me, here's my vision of the future, and here's how we get from here to there. And the people, if they don't hear a satisfactory answer this time, they may not listen much to this campaign.
While abortion is an obvious divisive issue, the Republicans today are more unified than the Democrats Jimmy Carter tried to lead in 1980. To get the election machinery humming again, experts agree that President Bush will have to do more than make a great speech. He will have to demonstrate that he is in control of everything that happens in this convention hall and that he can still generate the spark that will set the Republican armies in the precincts marching. Connie?
Eric, we'll be back with more on the campaign and the rest of the day's news when the CBS Evening News from Houston continues.
Suddenly, vitamins are all over the news.
And 2 out of 3 adults don't get all that's recommended in their diets.
The convention's so well orchestrated now, and they're not even used to select candidates anymore. Ideas why we, the media and politicians, still kind of go through this ritual?
Well, they're not nearly as suspenseful as they once were, but if you look at what is at stake here for George Bush and the Republican Party, a chance to kind of stitch itself back together again, to reintroduce George Bush to the American public and try to hammer out some kind of an economic plan that the country will find appealing, and to share with this country, if we can believe the president in terms of what he says he's going to do, what his plan is for the next 3 months, then that's important business, it seems to me, for the Commonwealth.
We've got protesters of every sort out there. You probably saw them coming in. Does any of that have an impact on the president or the politicians or those who speak at these conventions?
No, I don't think very much. I mean, I really, it's part of the great American tradition is to have political gatherings.
60 Minutes will be talking about tonight.
The CBS News New York Times poll we mentioned earlier finds that Americans are almost evenly divided over who can best uphold traditional family values. 37% say the Democrats, 36% say the Republicans. But the poll also shows that Americans have very different ideas about what the family values debate is all about. That's the subject of tonight's Sunday cover, the feud over family values.
The central issue of this election year should be, who do you trust to fight for the ideas that will help rebuild our families and restore our fundamental values?
After years of campaigning on family values, the Republican Party plans to dramatically highlight them Wednesday night, when Barbara Bush, surrounded by her family, breaks with political tradition and addresses the convention floor. But having the First Lady speak, say some analysts, is the only thing new with the Republican agenda.
For 25 years, the Republicans have been trying to paint the Democrats as the party of perversion, the party of homosexuals, the party of women's liberation, the party of divorce, and they're going to trot it out one more time to see if it works.
But this year, the Democrats are challenging the Republicans' hold on the issue of family values with both images and rhetoric.
I'm fed up with politicians in Washington lecturing the rest of us about family values. Our families have values, but our government doesn't.
Hey, how you there? How are we doing, everybody?
Good. And what do America's families think of all this? When the descendants of the Bach family of Pennsylvania gathered for their annual reunion last weekend and talked about family values, it was clear that while they feel family values are important, not everyone has the same idea of what those family values are.
Moral standards and so forth of this country.
Unity and love.
The deficit. I mean, talk about family values. These kids are going to have to grow up with that.
Not everyone agrees on who best represents family values either.
I think Clinton speaks a little bit more for family values.
The Clinton Gore ticket.
I guess I disagree. I think the Bush family has a lot more family values right now.
Family values may already be a rallying cry in this year's elections, but there's growing debate over whether they really belong in the political arena.
There isn't all that much that politicians can do, and I think that the public, if it looks at this clearly, should be offended by the efforts of politicians to try and exploit these kind of questions.
And some of these families would agree.
They're basically just kind of talking politics. When you say family values and family issues, that's something that has to start in the family. The government can't give that to us.
And at the Bach family reunion, many agreed. Family values, they said, really boils down to the basics.
Jobs, money, education, health insurance. I think if the government would just focus on addressing those issues, possibly the family could go on and heal themselves.
One other finding from our CBS News poll, 23% of those polled say their family's financial situation is better than it was 4 years ago. 34% say it's worse, and 42% say it's about the same.
How could this happen? They've taken the secret.
Europeans are upset. The
food for famine victims landed today in Somalia on the Horn of Africa. Meanwhile, an advance team of American soldiers headed today for
British Marine.
David said, "I'll try." That was the last thing he said.
Houston tonight ready to start their national convention, and Houston is as ready for them as it's going to be. Here's Judy Muller.
You don't have to go to the Houston Zoo to see elephants this week. The GOP mascot is everywhere, on lapels.
Well, I think it speaks for itself.
In hotel lobbies carved out of white chocolate. There are even topiary elephants outside the president's legal residence, the Houstonian Hotel, where the manager has been fielding some strange requests.
See, a radio station in Los Angeles wanted to broadcast from the presidential suite. that was pretty funny.
They didn't get to.
No, they didn't get near there.
But at least one guest managed to get in.
We just walked in, we see the maids outside, and the door's open, and we were just peering in, and we said, could we go in? She said, sure.
Of course, not everyone in Houston really considers George Bush a neighbor.
We do not consider him a Texan. I don't care who says he is not. As far as I'm concerned, this is his vacation home. The vacation home he has up there is his real residence.
And some Houstonians are less than thrilled about the convention.
I'm tired of Republicans. They ain't made me no money. Give me the poorhouse.
Well, I'd rather have the Astros myself in the Astrodome because I enjoy baseball a lot more than politics.
Half of Houston's freeways are under construction right now as it is, including those around the Astrodome where they're having the convention. So it's not going to be a good place to be.
The delegates who have to be here not only face monumental traffic jams, but also a monumental walk from the parking lot in the August heat. One consolation, if they do get caught in traffic, they can enjoy a Texas-style political debate, the battle of the billboards.
On the road leading to the Astrodome, pro-choice signs vie for space with anti-abortion signs. The National Rifle Association is here, as are the Democrats. This sign only lasted a day, but there are other signs of enemy infiltration all over town. These curbside campaigners sold hundreds of bumper stickers in just a couple of hours.
I thought we were going to get more catcalls than sales, but we're getting a lot of sales.
Also doing a brisk business, Houston's infamous topless clubs. The men's club, for one, expects to see a lot of delegates unwinding after a long day of speeches on topics about things like family values.
The double standard, the good old boy kind of mentality. However, it exists, and we take advantage of it as much as possible. So we're glad to have them here.
More traditional tastes are served at Houston's barbecue joints, where the smell of mesquite mingles with the sounds of country gospel.
Calling you, can't you hear the blessed Savior calling you?
And speaking of calling, we spotted controversial Bush campaign aide Mary Madeline mixing business with barbecue. Republicans who get weary of waiting in lines and residents who get weary of politics might take in the play in a nearby park. Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. Judy Muller, ABC News, Houston.
And we'll be back in a moment.
How could this happen? They've taken the seat.
Been registered.
I don't really like Bush or Clinton.
A lot of people also have a feeling of powerlessness that, you know, what's the point in me voting?
I make a lot of bad choices, and I think it's better if I don't vote.
What we have to do is get them to connect the issues that they care about with the ballot box, because they are politically active. They're just not voting.
When I was your age and even younger... Bill Clinton, who took questions on MTV and blew his sax on Arsenio Hall, seems to have tapped in. Polls show he now has almost twice the support among young voters compared to the president. Now, Republicans are playing catch-up, trying to solidify their converts.
We can soar with George Bush and Dan Quayle into your new century.
Bush and the Republican Party look out for the future. They're stabilizing us, the young generation.
But so far, the young generation is turning out a smaller crowd than the Republicans need to make a difference in November. James Hattori, CBS News, Houston.
And that's our news. Join Bill Plant later tonight on the CBS Sunday Night News. Be sure to watch CBS This Morning and join Dan Rather and the CBS News team for coverage of the Republican National Convention beginning tomorrow. I'm Connie Chung in Houston. I'll see you again tomorrow night. Thank you for joining us and for all of us at CBS News. Good night.
Experience CBS News.
Remember those rosy Morning in America Republican TV ads in '84? They made them here. We went back, and guess what we found? Eye on America tomorrow on the CBS Evening News. This is CBS.
Coming up next on 11 News, on the eve of the Republican National Convention, an